How we doing? Doing good.
Give me the thumbs up there, AJ.
Good morning. How we doing? Doing good.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us for the pre-spring football press conference. We appreciate you guys being here, and we're excited to get 2022 spring football started. We're going to start off with head coach Thomas Hammock. Coach, just want to talk a little bit about the off-season, what's gone on since December, and how ready you guys are to hit the field.
Yeah, no, it's been exciting. I mean, I think since we come back in January, our kids have been excited. They've had a pep in their step. They've worked extremely hard. We've become closer as a football team. We've become closer as a staff. I think we have an understanding of who our guys are, what they can do. I believe we got 95 guys on the roster this spring, which is a lot more than what you normally have. We were an extremely young football team last year, and these guys have made strides in the weight room. They've made strides in conditioning, and we're excited to hit the field. And what we talked about as a football team is what a great opportunity you have this spring to establish your role for next season. And it's open competition. And I look forward to seeing our offense versus our defense and those guys get after it for 15 practices.
All right, questions for Coach Hammock?
Coach, good morning. What would you guess, if you had to put them down, the top three objectives maybe that you want to see, that you want to take out of spring ball?
Yeah, I think, obviously we want to improve on defense. And I think that's a big thing that we want to work on. Our staff has been working tremendously hard to put our players in a good position to be successful. And I feel like, they're going against an offense that's pretty dynamic, and we should get a good litmus test of where we are defensively. We want to we want to figure out who our playmakers are, who are the guys that we know we can count on for next season. And I think we talk about trust. And trust builds confidence, and when you have confidence, it's our job as coaches to put you in position. And then the third thing we want to do is establish our core special teams guys. I think we've continued to get better in special teams each and every year. Coach Nick McKissick-Luke has done a great job in that area. But we want to come out of spring with a core group of guys that we feel like these 6, 7 guys could be 4-phase special teams guys, and that's the way that they'll get on the bus.
Follow up on your special teams comment, because most head coaches would dread going into the spring having lost a couple of outstanding seniors the way we do, place kicking and punting. But it seems to me you've got a nice lineup of talent right behind you. We've seen some of that.
Yeah, no, we've done a good job recruiting the specialists, and we try to stay a year ahead. So our philosophy is to take one before you need one. And we feel like Tom Foley is a young man that's been developing behind Matt Ferentz, Isaac Hatfield as a long snapper, and then obviously John Richardson are guys that give us quality, quality players at those positions where we feel like special teams could be a strength for us.
Coach, what would you say some of the strengths are of this year's recruiting class, and do you have any early enrollees joining you this spring?
Yeah, we've had about 9 guys come early, and some guys that we feel like throughout the offseason have put themselves in a position to carve out a nice role. As far as the recruiting class is concerned, we feel like we attacked our needs on the defensive line. That's always a tough position to recruit. We was able to get 2 young men in February that added to the guys that we already had. We signed some linebackers, some athletic linebackers that we feel like when they get here in June, that they can come from an athletic standpoint, they can be able to help us. We brought in some dynamic wide receivers, all guys that can run. They've been running indoor track. They send me their updated times. And then obviously the running back position was one that we want to make sure we continue to feed, because that position makes your team better, not only from an offensive perspective, but when you look at it and you get into the season from a scout team perspective. Having dynamic players on the scout team or compete team that can give our defense a real good look of quality running backs that they're going to face week to week.
And then this one more just like trying to get past, you obviously have 2 seasons ago, you go the lowest of lows last season, part of past championship teams along your journey, what would you say what would you think this team needs to improve on to continue to go on that upward trend?
Yeah, I think, obviously we want to continue to play better, and that's something that we talked about. We left plays out there as a team, and I think they realized that. And the one thing that you have to realize is that we had to rebuild to where we are now. So there was a process that was involved, but the thing I like about it is there's a tremendous opportunity for us to improve defensively. There's a tremendous opportunity for us to become more dynamic and explosive offensively. And if those two things can happen, then I think the results will speak for themselves.
Coach, it'll be a big year for you at the quarterback spot. I mean, Rocky is back. His super senior, I don't know how we talk, but he's, this is it. This is his swan song. So it's more important than ever now to really develop that backup, that line of quarterbacks back behind him. At this point in time, Ethan Hampton, we got a good look at him. He was number 2 last year. Do you see that holding forth, or is the battle for number 2 going to open up again in the springtime?
Well, first of all, I want to talk about Rocky. First of all, he's made tremendous growth in the last 3 or 4 months as a football player. He's always been a great leader. He did a great job, managing the game for us last year. But this year, I expect him to be a weapon, and he's out there and he's playing at a high level. One thing I thought that we did that was quite interesting this offseason is we had the players installed to the players, and what we tried to accomplish is to build leadership amongst themselves. So Rocky met with the wide receivers. Installed the offense, how he sees it. So then when they get in the field, they have that chemistry. And the things that he's been able to do from a processing and learning perspective, and how much we can put on him, will allow us to do a lot more on offense and be able to utilize his intelligence, his playmaking ability, and his leadership. And those things, that's what the younger quarterbacks need to learn from him. And so before he leaves this program, those young guys need to look to him and say, what can I take from Rocky as a leader, as a player, as a man, as a mentor to help my game? And as far as the backup quarterbacks are concerned, that's what the spring is for. Those guys are going to compete. We talk to our team all the time about it's next man up, the next opportunity, take advantage of the opportunity. So Ethan was number 2 last year. There may be somebody else that steps up this year. And so those guys are going to go out there and compete, and at the end of the spring, we'll have a much better gauge on where those guys are at. Just a quick thing on Rocky. Do you see him as a coach someday? Do you think that's in his future? I call him Coach Lombardi. His grandfather was a coach, his dad was a coach. And if that's something that he decides to pursue, I think he'll be fantastic at it. He has that type of leadership, that type of charisma, and just a guy that people want to follow. So, I tell him if he don't have a chance, if he doesn't go to the NFL, come back here and we'll make sure we can take care of him.
Coach, on the defensive side of the ball, you get a guy like Kyle Pugh and a guy like Devin Lafayette back. What does that bring to your defense for this specific season?
Yeah, I think it brings more competition. I mean, we had a big defensive personnel meeting yesterday, and the amount of depth that we have on our team with the amount of players that's played significant snaps is encouraging. It's something to be excited about. And what you see now is we've had a chance to go through walkthroughs and things like that. You see excellent communication. You see guys with confidence. They're able to go out there and cut it loose. And I can't wait till tomorrow. We're going to have to tame them a little bit for a couple days until we get the pads on to see what they can do.
And then for you specifically, spring practice is a new beginning. It almost is like that first day of the new year. What do you look forward most about this practice period with your team?
Yeah, I look for the energy. I think, we want guys that's excited to play. We want guys that's excited to compete. I think what's happening nowadays in the recruiting process and different things like that, kids get offers, right? They get stars. But at the end of the day, that doesn't validate you as a player. What validates you as a player is going out there and competing and being the best that you can be against other people. And so I want to see the excitement, and not only the excitement for day one, I want to see the excitement level for day 5, for day 7, for day 9. We expect this team to be a veteran team. We got a bunch of starters coming back. So they need to know how to process, turn around, and be able to get themselves back up with new install to play at a high level. And one thing we talked about was the spring is getting you ready for the season, okay? I don't want to go into the season and wonder how you're going to act, how you're going to respond. Show me how you're going to respond this spring and go out there and compete.
I'll ask you one last thought. Everything goes the way you want it to go in the spring. Obviously, we're going to see some different bodies, some different faces, different numbers. What about the overall look? What kind of overall, do you want the same look that you had back in 2021? Do you want to tweak it a little bit? What are we going to see from that?
Yeah, first of all, obviously in the spring you want to stay healthy. So I would like to come out of the spring with the same guys we went into it with. And as far as the look of the team, the personnel is going to dictate that. Different guys are going to step up. There's going to be different opportunities. But obviously we want to have a little more balance on offense. We want to have the ability to run the ball when we want to. But then obviously when people want to stack the box and things like that, we have to have a vertical threat in our passing game. And so that's something that we're going to work on, to have the ability to get the ball down the field and create chunk yardage in the passing game is something that will make us more explosive and dynamic. And then on defense, we need takeaways. When you look at defensive football, if you have the ability to take the ball away, if you have the ability to minimize explosive plays, normally you're going to be a good defense. And I think those areas are certainly things that we can improve upon, and that starts tomorrow.
Coach,
One last one. Looking at the schedule for this upcoming season, you have another strong non-conference schedule. Do you think that, last year with the strong non-conference schedule, it kind of puts you in a better position going into the MAC schedule following that?
Yeah, I love what Sean Frazier and John Chaney does with the schedule. It gives us an opportunity to see where we are, right? You open up with Eastern Illinois, then Tulsa, then Vandy, then Kentucky. Will all be great opportunities for us to see what type of team we have, what we're made of. And our kids are excited to play those games. To bring an SEC opponent into Huskie Stadium is a great thing. I hope that now that, COVID is a little bit past us now, we can have a great home crowd. People will be excited to come watch us because we're going to be a good football team. And the great thing about us is we are still learning about who we are as a program and as a team. And there's a lot of potential for growth.
Thanks, Coach.
Coach, when you look at who the seniors who we did lose, will you be looking specifically at some spots, whether it was, Clint Rakovich, Tyrese Ritchie, Brayden Patton, Lance DeVoe, some of those guys? Do you see already people emerging, that you're going to be looking to fill those areas?
Excellent question. Obviously, when you lose a senior class that had the ability to win 2 championships in this program, you want to find creative ways to fill those voids. Clint played a big part of our team. He gave us some versatility. And so we got a couple different guys that we feel like can have a chance to help fill that void with Ontario Brown and Mason Blakemore. Those 2 young men, we feel like their best football is in front of them. And so we're going to try to maximize them to the best of our ability and then try to play with some of the different things they can do in the running game and the passing game. Obviously, Brayden Patton played a lot of football for us, was a leader up front, was a guy that, would play tackle, play guard, play center, but he's a guy that will be missed. But we feel like Pete Niagara is a young man that has really been growing and developing in our program. He came early, came here about 240 pounds. He's about 290 pounds now. Very smart, very intelligent, from Brownsburg, Indiana, and a guy that we feel like you got 4 other starters around him that you can plug up in there, and we don't feel like we'll miss a beat. Obviously, Lance DeVoe, was a big part of our defense, but we feel like we got some guys that's played a lot of football with Davern, Raynard, Jaden Dauphin, Nick Ratine, Kyle Pugh, Makai Nelson Douglas. We feel like we got some guys that we can move around in different spots to close that void. Obviously, Tyrese Ritchie was a dynamic player for us. We wound up losing him at the end of last season, so we kind of got used to playing without him. But he's a guy you would love to have. He's a football player, loves to play. So we got some young receivers that we feel like they need to make a jump. And I think the work that they put in with Rocky and the other quarterbacks this offseason gives me great confidence that our passing game is really going to excel this season.
Talking about the jumps, who did you really see in the weight room really make a jump that you were like, oh boy, I can't wait to see this guy get out there in the spring?
Good question. You hate to answer some of these questions because you may leave out a guy, but definitely on offense, Pete Niagara, I already mentioned. Drew Holt is a young offensive lineman that we feel like he made tremendous strides this offseason. Mason Blakemore has done a nice job at the receiver position. Mason Pierre Antoine is a young man that's got his weight up. Jeff Lomax at the quarterback position. On defense, there's some more guys on offense, but a couple guys on defense. On defense, Jelani Williams has had a good offseason program, a young defensive lineman out of Milwaukee. Transfer from Wisconsin, Zay Green May is a young man that, he has done everything right this offseason. So unless he can't tie his shoes, we feel like he's a guy that can help us play. And then on the back end, Javon Bird has had a nice offseason. C.J. Brown has really upped the ante as far as being an all-conference player and working the right way. Muhammad Jameh, Lewis Fry. So we got a host of guys and some guys that I didn't name, but as a team, we were the second youngest team in college football last year. These guys, you couldn't tell. We still a young football team, but the way they carry themselves, the way they handle themselves, is going to be an intense spring, and I'm sure we're going to have to back them down a little bit.
All right, if there's no other questions?
One final question. I see Pro Day here on the 30th. You have quite a full Pro Day with a lot of graduating seniors with aspirations to play in the NFL. What type of example does that set for the younger guys who may have that same aspiration?
Yeah, no, I think it's good. I think we had 7 seniors last year, so not a big class. We don't have a lot of seniors this year either. So, but I will say this: in the younger classes, we got some guys that have NFL potential. And the one thing that you want them to look at is look at a guy like Clint Rakovich and how he handled his business in the offseason, how he handled his business in season, how he's handling his business now. And, use his experience of what he's doing, because he's going to have an opportunity. I'm getting a bunch of calls on him now because it's about that time. Free agency is about wrapping up, and they're looking toward the draft. But he's going to be a guy, if he runs what he's been running the past couple weeks, he's 235 pounds. I'm excited to see what he can do.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, with that, we'll wrap it up. Thanks very much, Coach.
Appreciate it. Go Huskies.
Players here, a couple of veterans with us that are joining us for today's pre-spring press conference, quarterback Rocky Lombardi and cornerback Jordan Gandy. So at this time, we'll take questions for these guys.
This one's for Rocky. I seen this offseason, you and Coach mentioned it, the amount of work that you've put in, the training that you've put in. What does a typical offseason look like for you and quarterback?
I think it depends on where you're at and where you're at in your career too, like how old you are. But usually guys have coaches that they go out and see at least a couple times in off season. And then a lot of it's just, working on your chemistry with your teammates. So, we do meetings twice a week at least, and try to get me and Coach E and the whole offense on as close to the same page as possible.
And then to follow that up, so you work with some of the young receivers. Have you gotten a chance to work with any of the early enrollees or maybe the transfers yet?
We don't have any early enrollee receivers, I don't believe. We do have a transfer from FIU, Shamar. He's got a lot of talent. I'm excited to work with him. We haven't got to see him play yet this spring, so we'll be able to get a taste of that on Wednesday and throughout the spring. But I think he's going to be a real good talent for us.
Then Rocky, Coach talked about one of the things they did was have you guys work to install some of the offense and the plays this year. Let's talk about that process, which is kind of a little different, I think, than maybe what you've experienced before, and how you think it could help the team going into this season.
Yeah, for sure. So Coach he does a really good job of working with me on what he thinks is best and what I think is best, and we try to find a middle ground or work together to find the best possible solution for both of us. And we came up with a couple new things this year, just little nuances to our offense that I've installed with the coaches and the players. So it's a little weird. I already feel a little old on this team, but filling in for like a coach's role is a little strange, but it's fun, and I like helping the receivers as much as possible and the tight ends and the entire offense, and I think it's going to be good for us to be on the same page because at the end of the day I'm the one that's going to be out there playing, so to be able to talk them through my mindset I think it's going to be really good.
This one's for Jordan. What are some things that you and the defense look forward to working on during the spring practice period?
We just have to keep getting better every day at the fundamentals and stuff like that. So stuff like tackling, you can never stop working on tackling. Techniques, defense is a lot about techniques, and it's small stuff that really makes a difference. So just continuing to work on that and our scheme and improving that and having everybody have a good understanding of what we're trying to do.
For both of you guys in general, is that kind of what these next couple weeks of spring ball is really about, is refining your skill and your technique going into August?
Yeah, I'd say both of those things, and then along with that is chemistry, working together and making sure that all 11 guys are on the same page, both offensively, defensively, and on special teams.
Jordan, talk about coming back home and playing and then having the kind of year you had. I mean, right into a starting role at the cornerback spot. How do you make it better going into this next season?
As a player, I think there's always things that you can do to continue improving. I know I never want to be a stagnant player. I want to keep growing. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do personally, just keep growing on the field. And as for coming home, it's been a cool experience. Obviously I'm very familiar with NIU football. I was here, the whole Orange Bowl and that whole run with Jordan Lynch and Chandler Harnish and all those guys. So it's pretty cool to come back home and just represent DeKalb.
And Rocky, what, as it pertains to NIU football, going into this, your final season, what's on your bucket list? What's that list to do that you...
Win another championship for sure is at the top of it. I came here to win games and win a lot of games, and I think we got the team to do that this year. So that's all my bucket list is, win games, as many as possible.
Jordan, for you, now that you have a few seasons under your belt here at NIU, what advice would you give to some of your teammates that will be participating in their first spring practice this year?
I know the first spring, it's kind of messed up because of COVID, so I didn't even have my first spring till last year. But it's just practice. That's all it is. There's no need to get too high or too low. Just go out there every day and try to get, we talk about getting like 1% better every day. So just try to do that, and really take the time to work on your craft.
For you guys, now that you can add reigning and defending MAC champions to the year, does that kind of bump everything up a bit now in the spring, knowing that now you have, another added goal? Now that you've won a MAC title, you've got to go out and defend it now. So does that add a little more juice into these practices coming up?
Yeah, I think the team understands that puts a little bit of a target on our back, and people say that it's hard to win a championship, and it's even harder to win the next one. So for us, it's just about staying focused. Like Jordan said, not getting too high or too low, making sure we take care of business, and do our best to run it back.
One thing that Coach Hammock talks to us all about is, keeping it small. So when it comes to stuff like that, we just try to stay in the moment and focus on, each day and not look at the whole big picture. And I think that helps us, not listen to any outside noise or feel any outside pressure.
Yeah, for me, look, last year's over. What happens happened, and we had a good year, but I'm already moved on.
Jordan, what has you excited about this defense that you guys have returning? I think there's 10 or 11 starters returning. We bring back Kyle Pugh. There's so much. Looks like there's so much potential on this defense.
Yeah, obviously, anytime you're able to bring back that many guys, is a chance to do something really special. Obviously, last season, we were okay at times, but I feel like, we all think that we can make a big jump, So that's kind of the next thing for us. We have the guys. We know we have the players that can go out there and make plays. It's just all coming together, being on the same page, and making that big jump together.
Rocky, for you, you lose one of your key receivers in Tyrese Ritchie, and then obviously you lose your roommate and close friend Clint. What would you say you've seen in the practices so far, just from working with the guys at the receiver position and even the running back position, that you think those spots can be filled?
Yeah. Well, we do have a lot of talent receiver. We literally have everybody coming back except for Tyrese. So a lot of depth at that position. Transfer Shamar's coming in. It's going to be really special. As for Clint, nobody's going to replace Clint. Clint was one of a kind. And we're going to change our offense to fit our personnel now. But as you know, everybody knows, the running back position is one of the deepest rooms on our team. So I'm not really worried about that position. But yeah, we're not going to really replace. It's hard to replace that position.
Jordan, when I look back at the Kent State two deeps, we talked about having the second youngest team in college football last year, but you may, when you take just the two deeps of the defensive secondary, might have been the youngest defensive secondary in the country. So what about now, with all that experience behind you, coming into the spring, then looking ahead, how much further ahead do you think you are?
I think we've taken a lot of strides. Obviously, one of the most, basic things you can talk about is being bigger, stronger, and faster. And I think a lot of our young guys, even me, we've continued to develop in that aspect. And then you kind of touched on experience, and experience is invaluable. So you can't really simulate necessarily what happens on the game field, on the practice field all the time. But now that we have that experience, we've been together, I think we're going to take a big jump ahead.
If you had a chance to talk to the fans and the people in the local community just about reasons to get excited about this team going into it, what would you say about, how to come out and support this team after, a couple of tough years, like you said, with COVID coming back, limited, whatever, but now things appear to be kind of back and it's time to jump on board.
Yeah, well, I think we're ready to, get back to where we were about 5-10 years ago when we had that run. I think we're most importantly going to have a really good team. I'm really excited about this year, and if you like Husky football, this will be a good year for you to come out and watch us play. We're gonna do some special things.
Yeah, kind of off of what he said. We have a lot of guys coming back from a championship team, so I think that's just a reason in and of itself to get excited for this upcoming season.
One final one for Rocky. Rocky, at the beginning you talked about, last year. How, as a leader on the team, how do you make sure that everyone has that same mindset and same energy where it's like, yeah, we did accomplish great things last year, but the clock is ticking and it's now this year?
Yeah, it's tough. Coach Ham and I talk about that a lot. How can we make sure that the attitude of the team stays in this, small things mindset like we talked about earlier. But to be honest with you, I haven't had to do much talking about that because they showed up in January ready to work, So I was pleasantly surprised with what our attitude was like when I came back. Nobody's head was too big. Nobody was talking about the championship. We had won a month earlier. We were ready to roll and ready to rock on for this next season.
All right, any other questions?
Real quick, both of you, your schedule. I mean, Thomas Hammock, Coach Hammock about it. You actually get to join the SEC the second half of the month of September, playing back-to-back. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. SEC's heavily considered one of the best football conference in the world. So for us to get an opportunity to play two of those teams, I think it'll be a good for us good for the world to see what we got. I think that we're gonna go out there and we're gonna play our best ball, and I think that we're gonna give them a run for their money.
Yeah, anytime you get a chance to play bigger schools like that, it's always a fun opportunity to go out there and show them what schools like us can do. So I think we're all looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks very much, guys, for being here. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you and look forward. Oh, you just off that? Okay, let me get my clothes, Brayden. And we will see you out on the practice fields.
Perfect.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.